Women, ICRW, all of you know, and Center for Gender Equity and Health, UC San Diego, to collectively support family planning program with data-driven evidence. The session will be chaired by Dr. Jamil Zamir. Dr. Zamir is a director of programs and performance at the International Planned Parenthood Federation, East and Southeast Asia and Oceania region. As a member of senior management team, Dr. Jamil contributed to strategic planning and organizational development of IPPF South Asia and its member organizations in 9 countries. As you all know, IPPF Southeast Asia and the Oceania region based in Kuala Lumpur is hosting a very important hub of FP2030 Asia and the Pacific hub. The debate will be conducted by none other than Dr. Neovani Medais, who is the Director of Research and Development Policy and Head of Malawi Office of African Institute of Development Policy. Previously, she was Professor of Demography and Social Statistics at the University of Southampton and lecturer at the University of Malawi as a Senior Researcher Scientist at the African Population and Health Research Center in Kenya. Dr. Medais has authored over 100 peer-reviewed publications on social determinants of sexual reproductive health, maternal and child health and nutrition. I don't think there is any better person than Neovani to conduct this debate on traditional method, as she holds a PhD in the same topic and is currently PI of a large 4-country study on traditional method in Africa. The Council acknowledges Neovani's contribution to the Council's work as the Vice Chair of our Board of Trustees. Please, Jamil and Dr. Neovani, please take your seat and conduct the session. Thank you. Jamil, you can start.
Thank you, Rajiv, for your introduction. And it's truly a very exciting day with a very interesting subject that we'll be debating today. The increase in the use of traditional method in India and many Asian countries and South Asian countries, as reported in the 2 last rounds of demographic health survey, has really triggered great interest and inquiry into the role of a family planning program. And so the session will be dedicated to see whether the traditional methods users should be persuaded to shift to the modern methods. So before I take time, we have a very distinguished panel for and against the motion. It is my pleasure to introduce and invite distinguished speakers. Ms. Joyce Sipon, Director Health, Equity and Rights from CARE. Ms. Preeti Anand, Project Director, Family Planning, UP Technical Support Unit. Dr. Karen Hattie, President, CEO, What Works Association. And Mr. Lester Coutinho, Director, Innovation and Learning, DKT International. And over to the moderator, Dr. Neovani Madisa, the Director of Research and Development Policies and Head of the Malawi Office of African Institute for Development Policies.
Yeah.
Over to you.
I'll come and stand. I don't want to be accused of favoritism by sitting that side. So I will sit here, I'll stand here and listen to both arguments. In front of us are 2 teams against and for the motion. They all have their own arguments, and the way I want to conduct this debate is I will give an opportunity for the against to start with, 1 speaker, and then 1 for the motion to speak. I'll come back to the against team to speak, 4 to speak, and then I will ask for a few minutes of reactions after we've all heard their arguments. The speakers will react first, and then I would like to come to the audience for you to react. At the end of this evening, I would like us to vote. And the vote is not based on your perception or your belief. The vote will be based on how well they have convinced you with their arguments. So that's the basis of the vote. At the end of it, we want to vote. Okay, so you know you have the... What would you like to do? So, without much further ado, I would like to ask our first speaker, who is against the motion, Dr. Karen Hardy. So, you have the floor, Dr. Hardy.
All right. So how traditional methods are addressed by a family planning program is a human rights issue. We know that the right to family planning was enshrined in the 1968 Tehran Human Rights Conference, where it said that couples have the basic human right to decide freely and responsibly the number and spacing of their children, and to have adequate education and information in this respect. By the time we got to Cairo, 1994 Cairo, couples had been expanded to couples and individuals, and at the end of that, it included the need to ensure informed choices and make available a full range of safe and effective methods. But the right to family planning somehow in our field has been morphed into a singular focus on modern contraceptive methods, with traditional methods, including withdrawal and rhythm, denigrated and labeled as ineffective. The term traditional is really contested, both what methods are included as traditional, but also the term itself, traditional. What does that mean? Old-fashioned, somehow bad. So we've really maligned these methods. And some use the term natural methods instead of traditional to try and get into a little bit more positive frame of them. So are traditional methods safe? Well, I went to our contraceptive Bible, the medical eligibility criteria from the WHO, and I'm just going to read what it said about withdrawal, not rhythm, but withdrawal. So the benefits, if used correctly, there are no health risks associated with, they call it, of course, coitus interruptus, but withdrawal. There are no side effects, doesn't affect breastfeeding. It involves no use of chemicals, and it's always available for primary or secondary or periodic use, and it involves no economic costs. So it is safe. But they do say there are challenges with the method. It's unforgiving of incorrect use, and of course it needs the cooperation of particularly men. And to use it with every act of intercourse. What about discontinuation and method failure? That's another thing that is sort of touted as ineffective. There was a recent analysis of 80 DHS surveys looking at traditional methods, and the discontinuation rate of traditional methods is actually lower than the pill, injectable, and condom. 30% for rhythm, 36% for withdrawal, compared to in the 40s, 40 and 42 for those other short-term methods. So lower rates of discontinuation. Failure rates higher for these methods, but 6% failure rate compared to 2% for the injectable, 3% for condoms, and 4% for the pill. So yes, higher, but not so much higher. So we say that autonomy of individuals to make their own choice is important, right? But somehow we conclude that the only acceptable choice for somebody to make is to use a modern method. We've baked that into MCPR? Oh my goodness, have you, every presentation I've heard at this conference, MCPR, MCPR. Demand satisfied for modern methods. So what do we say to women and couples who are using traditional methods by choice? Well, sorry, that's not an acceptable choice. No, instead, programs should work to ensure that women and men have the information they need to make an informed choice to use a traditional method or to use any method they want or to use no method at all. But rather than relying on information that they get from friends and their communities about these methods, and providers probably themselves maybe don't know so much about these methods. They probably need the information themselves. Having knowledge about traditional methods, how to use them properly, or for periodically or forever, or for whatever they want, that's what programs should do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Preeti, can you rebut?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I'll read out something against which I'd want the entire audience to understand how do we assess traditional method use. The choice made by women in favor of a particular contraceptive method depends on them having unbiased information, including benefits and risks of family planning and different types of contraceptive options. Additionally, there is complete availability of and access to all methods, and once information, availability, and access are addressed, the women are able to make a choice for use or non-use voluntarily without barriers and coercion. Therefore, when we try to position traditional methods as women exercising their choices, we will need to examine traditional method use against this definition. Are we trying to really cover up the system inefficiencies? Modern method practitioners, modern method programmers are absolutely not closing their eyes to the system inefficiencies that exist. But are we trying to cover up the system inefficiencies which often compromise quality and not the method per se, and cover up the shortcomings for FP programs by now wanting to believe that TM use is a true choice being made by women? Data shows that women who started their first contraceptive as a modern contraceptive, 61% of those women wanted to continue modern contraceptives throughout their life cycle, versus 40% of women who chose traditional methods as their choice of contraceptive, wanted to continue TM use, and eventually did want to move to a modern method because of the inefficiencies or the fears that she had that she would have unwanted pregnancies. Is increase of traditional method use a real shift to a preferred choice, or escaping from seemingly unnecessary physiological discomforts emerging from another contraceptive, which are mostly modern contraceptives, that women may have chosen, or their peers or their family members may have chosen, which may be influencing their decision to use a traditional method? Because contraceptive use is not considered imperative and can be postponed, unintended pregnancies are really not positioned strongly as a side effect in comparison to the other side effects of modern methods like nausea, bleeding, etc. And women tend to consider traditional methods as an alternative that allows them to be normal. But are they really normal, right? Something that is not interfering in their day-to-day activities and also not interfering in their day-to-day sexual activities. TM users are usually never told, are mostly not told, about the fallouts of using the traditional method, the largest being unintended pregnancies and the other being unsafe abortions. traditional method users have 45% higher rates of abortion than modern method users. When we speak to traditional method users, these have never been very clearly articulated. While we see traditional method use increase in Asian countries, including in India, of course, a closer look in conversations with some TM traditional method users that we recently have, when we saw an upsurge in the uptake of traditional method users, some of the things that they commonly articulated was a constant nagging worry of making a mistake, of calculating their safe period, which is the prerequisite when you're using a traditional method, and this is substantiated further by data. A survey that TSU, our unit, undertook on 12,200 women in UP, 50% traditional users did not have enough or the correct information on the ovulatory cycle. The second aspect that they articulate very clearly is that their husbands have greater control in case of traditional methods and make them feel a lack of control over their own fertility. They definitely want a reliable method, especially when they want to space births, and articulate the traditional methods they do understand are reliable and risky. They also undergo stress when they miss their periods. Therefore, the women that we spoke to had mistimed pregnancies, realizing that these might happen again, wanted to finally move to a more permanent method like sterilization. This is the context in India I'm talking about, so that they could be, completely dispelled of any fears that they may have when they do not want any more children. Evidence also shows that failure rates of traditional methods are almost double versus the modern contraceptive methods. And I would like to conclude my first argument by saying that, when contraceptive failures happen, they disproportionately affect the youngest and the poorest women. In other words, women who may not be the least available, capable, or in the least be able to take care of an unintended child, obtain maternal health care, and access safe abortion services. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mr. Lester, continue. Why should we let the TM users exercise their choice? Let them continue as they are.
Thank you. I'm going to stand because I've been sitting the whole day.
Michael.
Okay, I'm going to carry the mic with me. For a moment, I thought Preeti was speaking in favor of us.
We're all in favor of women. Right?
Men are included in this conversation.
We all. I said we all.
So let me start with a different track of how this debate must be approached. The debate is not about the efficacy of one method, modern methods, versus traditional methods. That is not the debate. The debate is to answer the question, if a woman chooses to use one or the other, should the state or any other program attempt to change that decision so that she's using another kind of method? So be very clear in your minds. The debate is not about efficacy. The debate is only about the nature of the choice that is being made. Now, to understand choice, you must understand culture. And to understand culture, we must become archaeologists of history. India begins its family planning program along with Pakistan as the world's first place where a national family planning movement begins. But there's a little part of history that precedes that event. That event is Margaret Saanger's visit to India while Gandhi was still in the freedom movement. And during that visit, she energized Avabai Badia and the others, and we have the Family Planning Association, and the rest is history. But there is a little recorded history of a conversation between Margaret Sanger and Gandhi. Margaret Sanger is trying to convince Gandhi that women must use new and modern methods. Women must use methods so that India's population does not grow. Because remember, all of them, Marie Stopes, Margaret Sanger, were all people fundamentally concerned about population. And Gandhi replies in just a few words, in a humble voice, and says, just make sure that whatever you do, let the woman choose. And this is recorded in the archives of Gandhi's conversations with her. The unfortunate part of India's history of family planning after that was, we forgot Gandhi as we forgotten him on many other issues in this country today. We forgot him on this issue of choice as well. And the culture of programming that evolved in this country was the culture of those who told us that population control was what we needed in this country. And that was executed with deliberate intent to postpone the introduction of other methods of choices in this country till we reach certain levels which felt that now we can bring other methods into this country. Why did it take India 3.5 to 4 decades before we got injectables? Why does it take India so long that we still don't have implants as a choice over here? Why? Because the Indian state intentionally drove towards permanent methods as the only choice that women must have. And I will conclude my arguments by putting before you the events that have happened in the last 3 weeks in Bihar. I call it India's uterus economy. Once again, the horrific incident of the removal of the uterus of 11 women without their consent. We should be ashamed that we still have a program where the state dictates to women what is good for them. But here is a redemption moment for India. This generation of women have taken the means for contraception and the means of controlling their fertility into their hands. They have access to technologies today that they did not have some years ago. Even if they use a natural method, and if they feel they are at a risk of a pregnancy, they have access to at least 2 other follow-up methods, which we classify them as something different. From a woman's perspective, they are doing the one thing that they're supposed to do: prevent the abortion, prevent the pregnancy. And that is legal in this country. And that is the right of these women to choose those methods. Whether it's emergency contraception being used as a regular method or a non-demand method, whether it is the choice to have an abortion, that is a choice. Women today have much more technologies available to them. Once again, in closing, the debate is not about the efficacy of methods. The debate is only and only about the choices. And the only regret we must have in this debate is we got too little, too late for women in India.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Joyce Sepono.
Yeah. Thank you very
want
much.
to
My name
come
is
back on
Joyce.
that? Yeah.
My name is Joyce Sepenu. Just give to Joyce.
Joyce.
I work for Care International. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Distinguished guests. I think today's conversation, we can all agree that it's about choice. We can all agree that what is at the bottom line is about choices. And whether you are a man or a woman, I think we're talking choices. We're also talking about what we have seen in terms of trends. And I think when I was given the topic about what's going on in Southeast Asia, there was the information showed that there was an increasing trend in traditional methods usage. I hope that at the end of this conversation and putting choices at the bottom of it, we can, each of us, say that the fact that we are seeing an increase in the use of traditional methods, the fact that there is increasing numbers in anything, doesn't mean quality, and I'm not talking about traditional methods and saying they're not, but anything, it doesn't mean it's quality. Anything that shows higher increases doesn't mean it gives us the 100% protection. In the case of contraceptives, the fact that we are seeing increase in the numbers of people who are using traditional methods doesn't mean that the levels of unwanted pregnancies are going down in those cases. And we have, and I agree with something that Lester said about people should be given the chance to make choices. But I think they should also be given the chance to make informed choices. Which means that we need to be clear about the pros and the cons of all the choices that are on the table to the people that are about to make those choices. So I'll share a few things because we're also pro-choice, we're also scientific, right? And so we should talk about what have we seen out there, what's the science telling us. And I will share a few scientific information with you. Now, there has been a study in the Philippines, because my colleague has shared a lot about Asia and my counterpart as well. So I'll talk about others, including perhaps in Africa, if we have the time. Africa, because that's where I come from. So I have my biases around that. So in a study that was done, it was a continuity study in 2017. It was, the data showed that there was more emphasis in the promotion of contraceptive methods, in the promotion of modern contraceptive methods because of its greater effectiveness in preventing unwanted pregnancies. But also, I quickly add that in analyzing 43 countries that showed 12-month contraceptive failure rates, it was proven that failure rates are higher for traditional methods such as withdrawal and periodic abstinence. Again, when Lester talks about, for example, giving the choice about withdrawal, we're talking about who is making that choice? Who has the power at that point? Think about that. So that's a point you need to think about. So withdrawal, for example, was one area where there was higher failure because, okay, you can think about all the reasons behind that. I'm not going to be the one to tell you that. You don't need me to remind you about that. So think about that. And there were failure rates showed in other traditional methods versus modern contraceptive use. Longer acting modern contraceptive methods such as implants, however, showed lower failure rates, right? In a study that was done by Sullivan et al. In 2006, they also showed that the use of contraceptive methods has been traditional contraceptive methods have been associated with increased odds of having undesired pregnancies. Again, I'm just putting the data out there because we are all for choice, but we're also for the sciences and what the trends are showing us. There were other studies that were carried out in Asia and in Africa and in other places. And I'll share some of the reasons that were highlighted by women and couples as some of the reasons behind the choices they make about using traditional methods. And here they go. The most common reason was fear. Fear of side effects. The other reason was just not having all the knowledge about what else is there. There were other reasons around just the inconvenience in just going to look for the modern contraceptive, where to get it, etc., etc. And that was in contrast with the relative ease of adopting a traditional method. So it was easier in many cases. Poor access to services in terms of distance, availability, and also sometimes affordability. There was a common perception that modern family planning methods and services were only for married women. And there were also very negative social norms around premarital sex activity. So you didn't want to be seen as being involved in having premarital sex. And so if you went for a modern contraceptive method, then you could be labeled if you were unmarried. So because of some of those norms, people shied away from modern contraceptive use. And some people cited, again, the distances of the health facilities, the attitude of health service providers, number of children that people had, you know, and obviously education. So, friends and colleagues, I would like to submit to us all this evening that we are for choices, but we are also for the science of this conversation. The trends have showed us that though family planning, whether they are family planning use, whether they are modern contraceptives or traditional methods, they contribute to the overall family planning family planning use prevalence or contraceptive prevalence. They contribute to how much we are seeing, whether we are seeing a reduction in their unmet need or not. But at the end of the day, there are these factors that contribute to which ones really are out there showing us effectiveness. And my brother didn't want us to use the word effectiveness, but at the end of the day, we need to look at the trends. And I would like to submit also this evening that we as development actors and change actors, if we are bold in tackling some of these issues that were highlighted by users themselves, not by me, some of the issues that inhibited people from using modern contraceptive use, if we can confront these issues, we will reduce the rate of unwanted pregnancies, the rates that we have seen amongst people that use traditional methods of contraception. I would like to end there for this round. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, you've heard the arguments. I want to ask you, do you want to rebut some of what they've said? Let's start with you, Kari.
That's on now. Great. I'm gonna be Lester right now. If all we cared about were failure rates, we'd make sure everybody was sterilized because that has the lowest failure rate. Hasn't India tried that? And still traditional method use is going up. You said 50% of women using traditional didn't have knowledge of the fertile period. That is a failure of our family planning programs, not to teach women when they're fertile, starting with young women. I was invited to be on this panel, I heard, because when I was in the India office, I said, I'm going to give my teenage daughter cycle beads because I want her to know when she is fertile. So anyway, stockouts. How many times do we hear, oh, the woman, she couldn't get the method that she wanted, so she went away with nothing and she came back pregnant. That's a failure. That's a failure of modern contraception if there's a stockout. So again, why not make sure the woman knows when she's fertile, knows how to use withdrawal or some rhythm, so that she can be safe at least until she can go back and get, if she wants to be using a modern method, get that. If a young person is having sex and is not prepared, doesn't have a condom or something, shouldn't they know how to use withdrawal to the best of their ability? So I just wanted to say that, but I also want to zoom out. I know we're here talking about India and Asia tonight, but I just want us to look at the rest of the world. And again, I want to talk about some data from the study of 80 countries, 80 DHS countries around the world. And while they found that obviously the share of modern methods has gone up considerably, because those are the methods that are promoted by family planning programs, and they're good methods. I'm not trying to say that modern methods are not good. But there's also been a steady, over those DHS surveys, and of course it's different within regions, but around the world a steady 1 in 15 women, that's 6.7%, have just consistently used traditional methods. So there is a population of people, women and men, and we have to say women and men when we're talking about these methods, who just want to use this method or are using this method. So why should we sort of ignore that population? Again, as you said, they want to avoid negative side effects. They don't want chemicals in their bodies for that long. And look at the women who use the method. Increasingly highly educated women in urban areas. So surely they have full access to a range of methods, and yet this is what they choose to use. So that the idea that we should just try and shift all traditional method users to modern method users is really misguided. Certainly some use traditional methods because they lack access to modern methods, and that's not okay. I mean, they should have access to whichever method they want. So FP2020, I mean, I know we're in FP2030, but FP2020, what was the rallying cry for FP2020? Remember that? 120 by 20? Modern methods, MCPR. Okay, so, and FP2020 ended obviously in 2020. In the almost last progress report of FP2020, there's a big measurement section, and they actually had a box on traditional methods. And they said the continued reliance on traditional methods in many contexts indicates the need for a better understanding of the reasons for traditional method use. As understanding of it improves, maybe family planning programs can determine whether traditional use represents an opportunity to remove barriers to modern methods, or an opportunity to better support women's fertility intentions and contraceptive choice with increased focus on traditional methods. So again, I contend fundamentally, as long as they have the information and support they need to make the choice to use traditional methods or any other methods, or no method at all, it's people's right to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Preeti, use your 3 minutes wisely.
No, I completely agree with what Karen is saying, but pushing or bringing in the traditional methods, yes, Lester. I think eventually we'll move the two tables close together, because we're talking about choices for women. But when we look at Southeast Asian countries or the Asian countries where we're talking about the increase in traditional method use, we are going to be moving the traditional methods to be part of the same basket within an inefficient FP program. I did bring that up. Completely recognizing that there are inefficiencies in the family planning program as we speak and debate today. And the basic prerequisite, which is essential to make a choice in favor of traditional methods, is the correct knowledge and use, which, driven through the same health system, I don't know what it is going to do. to a lot of choices that we think are going to empower women. I have a young daughter too, and she just recently moved to France. And I told her all about modern methods because I wanted her to continue to feel empowered and not be dependent on a choice that probably a man coming into her life, a French man coming into her life, may make, right? So I told her about the pills and I told her about the injectables and I did tell her about the IUCDs and the choices for her to make so that the control remains in her own hands. So ladies and gentlemen, modern contraceptives are crucial to women's empowerment in that they increase their decision-making power, their autonomy, individually and within the households, enables them to plan their education, employment, professional development. I have 2 children, and if I remained constantly pregnant, I wouldn't have been here, right? More efficiently and leads to an improved balance in their lives. Places the control of their own bodies into their own hands because they decide to choose what contraceptive, a scientifically efficacious contraceptive, brings to their lives. And therefore, empowering women to choose modern contraceptives has the potential to reduce inequities and raise the agency of women and subsequently enhancing autonomy, leading to true choice. A choice that is informed, a choice that is a full choice, and a choice that's a free choice, right? Also, once a contraceptive choice is made, it is not necessary that it stays appropriate through the life stage. Let's all understand. During your reproductive life stage, a woman is moving from 15 years to almost 50 years of her age. And her life choice and her contraceptive choice changes as per her life stage need at that point in time. And modern contraceptives are the only contraceptives that allow her to move from one contraceptive choice to another. Unfortunately, traditional methods do not provide her that level of choice, right? And she can safely switch between methods. Last but not the least, I think we forget that women are sexual beings, right? Modern contraceptives add to a woman's sexual well-being by allowing them the freedom from unintended pregnancies. They add to the spontaneity and remove inhibition. If I was worried about getting pregnant at the end of each act, the joy in the act is all lost and gone, right? Modern contraceptives, therefore, also need to be seen in the line of more sexual than medical goods. Let's really, as programmers, bring in that perspective and potentially sexually revolutionary aspects of more modern contraceptives need to start being discussed more and less downplayed as have happened in all these years so that the focus moves away from the side effects and can be brought to the recreational, relational, and the personal aspects of modern contraceptives. So, with the high success rate of modern methods, with perfect use, which is difficult to achieve through traditional methods, positioning modern methods through a strong pleasure and self-care lens is the requirement within our programs today. So I rest my case here for now.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So as Lester stands up to speak, just to the audience, I want to say, start thinking about your submissions. Keep them short and sweet. Lester.
I'm completely distraught. Completely distraught. I'm completely distraught by the demonizing of men. Completely.
There's an element of truth, Lester.
Let's face this very frankly. The debate is still about choice. The day we give up the hope that a man and a woman can consensually agree to what kinds of risks they are willing to take with their contraceptive methods, we have given up the hope of love in their lives. sexual without love is not good enough. We give up the hope that a woman can educate a man on what is pleasure to her. We give up the hope that a woman can make her decisions for herself. I finally want to kind of come to what I think is the core fallacy in the debate that we have had. The core fallacy is that if someone is making a choice, there is a set of choices where somebody else has a secret lectionary which says those are not good choices. And the day we start judging the choices of a woman, even if you are a woman yourself judging another woman's choices, you are failing that woman. We have had enough of expert cultures telling women for the longest time of what choices they should make. Not just about their bodies, but about their lives, about their careers, everything. So the minute we start saying that someone must tell this woman that this particular choice of yours is not good enough, please use a modern method, we are opening the doors to a patriarchal society which is embodied within women and men equally, that will instruct women what to do. The women's movement is a movement for the liberation of making all choices. It is the liberation that gives you the freedom to make mistakes. Let our children too make mistakes. I finally want to say that if at all there is one thing we must correct, to act, we must act to respect the choices that women have made. Because if we allow the state, not just in India, or anywhere else to say that there is a hierarchy of choices from good to bad to worse, we are allowing the state to come into the governance of our bodies, our pleasure, and much more.
Thank you. So, Joyce, you have the floor.
I'll just probably touch on that last point by Lester. And Lester, thank you so much. Because as I was thinking about what else I'm going to say, you just showed me what to say. So,
Always glad to help you, sister.
I have 3 girls. Imagine that we just say to our children, boys or girls, that it's okay to make mistakes. Fundamentally, that's a sentence that's probably not harmful, right? But when you take that to our reproductive health and rights and choices and what could cause us harm, there are some mistakes you don't want to make, right? There are some mistakes. Sometimes we say we learn from our mistakes, but you don't want to make some mistakes, certain mistakes you don't want to make. So what's important here is the fact that we are all agreeing on choices. But we want those choices to be informed. Yes. To be informed in such a way that we don't make mistakes that are expensive, because some mistakes are very expensive. Unintended pregnancies can cost us lives, can cost us our future, the future of our children. Adolescents, it has a big impact on them in terms of their potential. And so we don't want to get there. Unsafe abortions is very expensive. So to the health of adolescents, to the health of women, we don't want to get there. And so that's why it's critical to give the information, the whole range of information, and let women, particularly women, let them make those choices in the plenary on Monday, when we were hearing all those speeches about agency of women over their bodies, over their choices, over when and where and with whom, we were all clapping, right? Now, this is an opportunity for us again to demonstrate if we believe in that. If we believe in that, then when you think about, so if you believe in that, then please think about coitus interruptus. And again, who is in control? When you think about that, then think about knowledge about period cycle. And how many of us were taught how to calculate the period cycle and to be safe when we can be safe? And so when we are leaving methods to knowledge and who is in control and access and so on, then we are making some expensive choices. Again, I'm submitting to this audience, distinguished audience, I'm submitting to you that there are issues in the reproductive health sector that we need to confront about access to services, about the quality of the services that's provided, about the attitude of service providers, about adolescent reproductive health services and how to make that friendly so that people can make those choices about going to access the service and about using those services. And I think, as my colleague was saying, those are the inefficiencies of, and I would say the failures of our health service systems, and we need to confront those. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And let's clap indeed for the two groups. So what I would like to suggest is I'll start with this gentleman. Yeah, go to the microphone. There's a microphone there. I think it's working. Yeah.
Hello, I'm
And please state whether you are for or against the motion.
I'm asking my question to this group against the motion. So I'm here. I'm posing question for the motion. So yeah, I'm from Population Council. My name is Arupendra Mujumdar. Let's begin with what Karen said. You said that the traditional method use has consequences, and that is catastrophic. So if that means catastrophic means if there is, as Lisa said, if there is a mistake, that results into an unintended pregnancy. And that subsequently can result into the possible there's unsafe abortions, and also if there's unintended child that comes, there are consequences as well. So if that's the case, so we talk about the rights. So what happens to the rights to health? What happens to the rights to protect the person who need to avoid unintended birth? Towards here again, but we are kind of allowing to happen unsafe abortions or unintended pregnancies. So what happens to those rights? And the second thing I'd like to add here, because the motion is about whether programs should try to give more choices or to inform the traditional method users about the choice to convert to the modern method. So if, as you know, that if a children has a chance to make mistakes, the parents should inform them that if you go to this road, these are the consequences, and there are safe options available. So what a program should do here. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you so much. Can I have this second gentleman? I need to see hands if people want to speak. Again, okay, thank you. I've seen the two hands. Three hands. Okay. Let's have the gentleman say. Please state whether you are for or against the motion.
I'm
2
Tanmay.
minutes maximum. Yeah.
I'm Tanmay from CARE and I'm clearly against the motion. And the point is, you are talking about choice, and it's actually, if I read it very carefully, it's actually choice of the program. And the program has no choice. They have to go against the motion. Because the second one is saying that they let them do what they want. And the first one is talking about expanding as if going against their choice. So the point is, both of them are assumption based. As if the first one, for motion, the assumption is those who are using traditional method, they are not doing it in an informed manner. They are using traditional method just because they didn't know, they don't know what to do. Why so? When OTT is actually over the top, reaching everyone's laptop before you just give them any knowledge of anything, they know what is a condom and they know what is actually a spacing and other stuff. But they don't know how it relates with health. You are talking about scare. Scare of what? Only unintended pregnancy. Who takes care of? No, there are other aspects. They are scared of being thrown out of the family because of not having a boy child. There is scare of not being pregnant. Where does the fecundity pressure go? So those scare also ultimately push somebody when you talk about injectables. We don't like. Did we like to take the injectable COVID vaccine when we gone there? Didn't we ask? Shall we take Covaxin or Covishield? Why the poor woman that needs to actually think about it? The point is, both of them talking about only one point. Don't go by assumption, data. How many young, educated, traditional method users could actually be converted into a modern method user? The data says only 20%. And our qualitative study says they want to use traditional method as long as they are not okay with their families to be completed. So the point is, let them get informed and let them decide. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I like your style, mister. We'll get a lady next. Nah.
Thank you so much. So I think that the last speaker said basically what it is that I wanted to say. And I'm speaking against the motion from an African perspective. The fact that we are seeing the same trends, more educated women in urban areas using traditional methods more and more. So I used to teach a master's class in sexual and reproductive health, demography students. And every single year for about 6 years, I would have to teach this graduate class how to calculate the safe and unsafe periods. In Ghana, where I come from, there is nothing at all in the education of health practitioners, nurses, doctors, about traditional method use. The Ghana Health Service does not recognize traditional method use. And so what happens is that we are seeing more and more, so the DHS, for example, if you just go and analyze that question that asks about whether you know at what time a woman is most likely to get pregnant, so many people are getting it wrong. So I think that one, people do want to make that choice. It's just that information that they don't have. And we need to enable people to have the information to make an informed choice, whichever way it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. So let's take Nuruddin, Elizabeth, those two, and then I'll come back to you. There's.
Okay. Thank you for the heated debate. Let me state, I am for the motion, and I'll explain. Lester made an argument about the state controlling and deciding, making choices for women. Do we want to replace the state by men? Well, we take out the state, and instead of the state making choices for women, it is now men making choices for women. And like the argument is made, how does the woman control withdrawal? Even the man who we think is in charge cannot control withdrawal. Now, the second one has to do with we confuse education and academics with knowledge about reproductive health. My wife is university educated. But we all agree that sex and reproductive health is not taught in school. So when you see women who have higher education living in urban centers using withdrawal, you don't conclude that those women know. Because we also concede that this is not taught in school. So it's contradictory to say a woman who has higher education is living in the city has knowledge when you consider that the school that they went to doesn't teach this. So our measure of women in urban educated women in urban areas as a measure of autonomy, as a measure of knowledge, itself is faulty. Because we concede that this is not taught in school. So which school or where did they get that education that suddenly, if you have a master's, we consider you to have knowledge of reproductive health when we said it's not being taught in school? So I think we have to go back to the measures. We have to be clear. We all want to support the choices that are made. But we don't want those choices to be decided by contextual factors, to be indirectly driven by men or the state. So it should be choices that are made. If all what is available on the table, the woman decides that I want to use periodic abstinence, a rhythm, and we know she has knowledge, we can test it, no problem. But it should not be driven by a first degree or a master's or a PhD when the person cannot count their calendar. So I'm with my colleagues. I support the motion, and I think we should expand contraceptive services. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Okay. So I saw Elizabeth, and then I will come to, because I also want to have a geographic divide. After Elizabeth, if I don't mind, I'll have the gentleman in the black shirt here. And then I will want to go to the lady, and then I'll come to you, Jacques. So I haven't forgotten you. And then I've also seen another hand there.
Okay, my name is Elizabeth. I'm from Nigeria, and we are working on traditional methods. I am against the motion. I would want people to have the choice, if they are using traditional methods, to remain users of traditional methods, but I will say with knowledge. The reason why I support this notion of allowing traditional users to use traditional methods with knowledge is that there is a kind of, how can I say this, modern methods, so-called effective methods. There's a kind of I wouldn't call it disrespect, but the idea that if it doesn't work for you, if you have side effects, it's your problem. It's a woman's thing, and the science, modern methods, Western science does not respect women's complaints about some of the side effects. There are so many side effects, and let's not deceive ourselves. There are so many side effects of these, especially the hormonal methods. But when women complain, they are told, it's your problem. You're a woman, you know. But why is it that men are not being, very few men are using male, what's that thing? Vasectomy. Very few. But it's very effective. But why? You know, it's men who designed this, and they don't want to use it. Okay? And apparently, I learned that male contraceptives could have been, you know, it could be available. But no, give it to women, okay? And let them suffer, it's fine, okay? So now many women go to use traditional methods because they don't want to suffer a lot of these side effects. And these side effects are not taken seriously because they are women's problems. So if we take them more seriously, we would understand why women are going to use traditional methods. I rest my case.
At some point, I got confused. Were you for or against the motion? Sir, yeah. So keep them sweet. Let's get the views, and then We'll have a final round once I've gotten all your inputs for them to say in 1 minute, and then we'll vote. Yeah.
So,
Okay, go ahead.
so I'm not going to say for or against. I'm with this team because. So I don't know. I mean, I just felt that these were two different debates. You know, they were not talking the same thing. But what this team says, I agree to that. That you need to democratize it. You are talking about choice. Give them information about the traditional methods. If they want to switch, if they feel that okay, the side effects are here, or you know the efficacy is less, whatever, let them make a choice. You know, do not assume that traditional methods are bad. So I think it's pretty simple that because I don't think that training manuals in India have the details about that. I don't think that all the trainers are training about the traditional methods. So I think if that is the case, just train them more better. Just let them have the knowledge. Whether good or bad, let them decide. So I think that would be an appropriate and a more democratic method. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And this,
Methods are not bad, but modern methods are better.
Yeah. Let the person decide rather than us deciding. So because side effects also come in the picture, right? I mean, efficacy, okay, I agree the efficacy is less, but then added side effects are there. So I think let them decide. Yeah.
I am for the motion. Family planning is informed choice. It's not just choice, but it's informed choice. I'm a gynecologist, and if you have seen a septic abortion, if you have seen peritonitis, then you know what are the consequences of an unwanted pregnancy. And every pregnancy should be wanted, and an unwanted pregnancy is a great risk, so I am for it. We should use the most effective available concept.
Yeah, I'm Jacques Emina from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So, yeah, moderator, I don't like that kind of question. Yes or no? Because we still have choice to have a third way. And that third way, we can find it if we analyze data properly. Who told you that people use only traditional and only modern? There are people combining the two, mostly condom. If you look at proportion of women using condom method, most of the time they are combining with traditional method. So I don't think that. No, I don't think that the choice of method, the traditional method, is not informed. Some people make those choices deliberately. Myself, I apply that method. And I'm going also to say against my colleague Nuruddin, we are in the same team. Most of the time now, in most of the country, we have sexuality education course. So we cannot say that people cannot learn sexuality and reproductive health at school. So they are this. So I think people should make their choice. Traditional method is not associated with failure, and modern method is not safe 100%. So people should make real choice depending on their own behavior and other things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So, yeah, let's get the lady first, and then we will have you. Yeah, and then I've got, I think, one more.
I'm against the motion. For two reasons. One, I think the choice is made. All the debate about choice is probably baseless because the choice is made. People have said that they want to have traditional method, maybe along with the modern method.
Yeah.
The second reason, I'm bringing a little bit of women's perspective. Often in country like India, women don't have a voice. Often traditional method would require some kind of communication between two partners. And that's a great ground to start the relationship for both the partners.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonal, for covering the first point, because I had 2 points and you covered 1 point. That's good thing.
Yeah.
That they should use traditional methods if we are empowering them to speak. And yeah, no, I'm against this group. I'm against this group. So they should have that power to express, and that should be heard as well. Then only the traditional method will work as, like, along with the knowledge, because the level of knowledge and level of understanding after so many BCC events with women, we see that in many programs they come, if you ask them the LMP, they don't remember it. If you ask them their phone numbers, they don't remember it. It is not because they don't make effort, but remembering things along with the burdens of so many things like children, family and other things, it is difficult for them. And when we talk about rural part of India, it becomes difficult. Yeah, with education or with continuous support, we can have that, of course, and it should be combined thing. Modern or traditional, both the methods are beautiful, but the only thing is that there should be knowledge, there should be continuous effort, and at the same time we are talking about pleasure as well. So pleasure becomes the primary thing when it comes to having that moment, than that of responsibilities. And when it comes to pleasure, I think what word you use, demonization like of man, I think it is not about that. It is about going to that level, and when it is in that level, I think all the responsibilities are kept aside, and that's the reason.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, the lady there, and then Jamaica, you will probably be the last one, because I would like the panel also to make their final submissions before we vote. There may be a prize, you never know. Okay. Go ahead.
I came in here as for, and I'm now against. At the risk of sounding repetitive, I'll highlight 2 points. The first is that we are assuming that if someone is informed that they're going to choose modern, which we don't know to be the case, and in fact the data says it's different. And I'll elucidate this with an example for the audience. By show of hands, how many of you believe that climate change is a real problem? Okay, keep those hands up. How many of you are vegetarians? Okay, the rest of you have made the wrong choice with your life, because the data shows us that being a vegetarian is more sustainable for the planet. And like that is right off the bat an issue, because you can't walk into a room and say that people are making a wrong choice by the lifestyle that they're choosing to live if they are exercising a choice that is not in any way illegal or hurting other people other than themselves. And I think that that's the core and crux of this argument.
Thank you so much.
Quick. I think that the easy answer is we don't have enough information, we don't have enough data to make sweeping generalizations. But you didn't ask for the easy answer, you asked for a debate.
Yes.
And you have forced us to come up here and take a position, which I think is very helpful, because it moves us out of this, not really clear, nuanced position. So, spoiler alert, I think the commonality here is informed choice. I mean, I hear that from both sides, and I think that's an easy point to agree on. But again, you didn't ask me to agree, so you asked me for or against.
Yeah.
I'm going to say for the motion, and I'm going to put a little bit of nuance, that programs should try and expand traditional method users to modern use and information. Make sure that they're informed, but don't try too hard. Make sure that that information is there, and then leave that informed choice. And make sure that we have, again, the information, the informed, the attempt, and then the respect for the choice, understanding that it is well-informed, can be correctly used, and responds to a woman and a couple's particular need.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you still have some questions, I can see there's some drinks at the end. At the end will also be opportunity to continue arguing about this. So, I want to come, I'll start with the for motion, the for, and a 1 minute summary, starting with Joyce. 1 minute summary, you've heard the arguments, make your pitch.
Thank you very much. I think I would just go back to some of what I've been saying. That this argument, this conversation is about choices, and it's about informed choices. So everything we can do to increase the information provision to people, to women in particular, as they make those choices, I think we should all be for. And for me, that's the bottom line. The other thing I would like to just share is that the data has showed us that many of the people who are using traditional methods have reasons for using those. And I have said right from the beginning that when you look at those reasons, some of them are unfounded. For example, misconceptions around the side effects. A typical example, IUD can travel through your uterus and get to your heart. Where is that from? Now, if you and I are sitting here and watching that group of women and girls who are making those choices about not going modern contraception because they think that there is that side effect, and then we say, okay, it's their choice. How informed is that choice? So the underlying thing for me is, please, let's allow informed choice making. The other thing I would like to admit is the fact that there are failures in our health systems and our health service provision, family planning health service provision. And the more we are courageous in admitting those, the more we can address the situation about what choices are made. So our role as program designers, program implementers, is about looking at some of those failures and saying to our national governments, and say, we need to do something, we need to address something in our health systems. Get our national governments to start rethinking the investments they make in health, the investments they make in strengthening health systems, the investments they make in the health workforce, the investments they make in strengthening the counseling skills of family planning health service providers, the investments they make in recognizing and giving the right remuneration to health service, the frontline health workers who are not being recognized and not being well paid, and therefore are not well motivated to do what they have to do. Let's start talking about those, and let's see how that impacts on family planning health service provision. Let's start thinking about how we can widely implement community-wide interventions, use mass media, etc., to ensure that the right information is provided and provided widely across in our communities. And then if we have done all of that, and people still make those choices about going tradition, then we know their choices are informed.
Yeah.
So I'm ending on that note.
Okay,
informed choices. Thank you.
So, Lester, do you want to make your final submission? Microphone.
I will read these lines for you for the last time clearly. The debate is not about the relative efficacy of methods. The debate is about who is making choices for whom. The debate is about, can we learn to respect the choices that women make? And can we stop judging women for which choices are informed and which choices are less informed? Because once we allow that to happen, we are allowing for a society to continue to keep doubting the decisions that women make. It will then be the doubts of the partners they choose, it will then be the doubts of everything else they do. So please, in each of our countries and in each of our homes, let us teach our children to make choices. Let us teach them to live lives believing that even if the world is imperfect in giving you choices today, we must strive to keep that human rights agenda live and kicking because that is the only way we will be fully human, whether male or female.
Thank you. Thank you. Pretty. Last words.
Thank
Make
you.
them count.
I think time to bring the two tables close to each other, and Lester's taking us all out for dinner after this. Okay, so I think the winner is informed choice, full choice, and free choice. Free choice that women make when they have all the information that they need to make a deliberate choice, which is about their own lives. I will give you a quick example of something that we saw in a project that we undertook 3 years back, much before the NFHS data or the country level data, for showing traditional method use was increasing. We wanted to try out how the self-help group women can really be brought into the fold of family planning within communities, being, women leaders. We started out with information on all methods. We realized there were quite a few traditional method users as well, so built that information in as well. The results in the end showed when women had the entire array of information to make the right choices, traditional method use went down by 8 percentage points. Modern method use went up by 5 percentage points, and no sterilizations. This was spacing methods being chosen. Abortion rates declined by half in the control group, in the intervention group, right? So the point here is women need to have choices, need to have information to make the right choices. And when you tell them about, share with them the array of modern methods and what and how they can bring them in, they will make a choice that best suits their need. Thank you
so much. So, Karen, final words from you.
All right.
A minute, please.
So I feel like we've had a lot of sort of gaslighting here tonight. We're blaming the health system because we have a poor health system. Rather than saying, let's improve the health system, we say, that's just the way it is. We're blaming women somehow about side effects. We're still blaming women about side effects. What is one of the most common reasons for discontinuation of modern methods? Side effects. And yet our colleagues are saying, oh no, those aren't important. We just tell them that the pleasure that they can have with not having to worry about getting pregnant, that they'll forget about the side effects. They don't forget about the side effects. Those affect women's bodies, and we're trying to give women control of their bodies. That means saying, I don't want those side effects. I want to use a different method. And you use the term, if she has information, she'll make the right choice to use a modern method, as though that's the only, again, right choice. In a year, if with unprotected sex, how many women will get pregnant? This is a test. How many women will get pregnant in a year with unprotected sex? What proportion? Like 85? 50%. Okay, 50%. Okay, I think it's higher than that, but anyway, let's say 50%. And what about traditional methods? 4%. So again, let's keep all of this in perspective. Demonizing, unintended pregnancies are that's not what we want at all, but let's not think that only women who use traditional methods have unintended pregnancies and abortions. So that's, but it's also, we've also heard demonizing men, and we've heard some men trying to say that, not all men are uncontrolled or uncontrollable. There's some research from Pakistan.
So make that your concluding sentence.
Yes, that basically said that couples who used withdrawal said that they felt like they owned the method and that it helped them communicate, that they had actually discussed it, before they decided to use the method. So again, and I just have to say, I have to put in a plug for the 4-country study that you're doing and that the Gates Foundation is funding. Thank you for doing that, and we're all really looking forward to the findings of those studies to understand more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. So, vote using Menti. Go to www.menti.com, and the code is 57877591. So, make your choices. They've made the choices already. Okay, all right. I just wanted to give you a chance. Okay, so if you are blue, or if you want to say, I was for and I'm staying for, that's the blue one. I was against and I'm still against, that's the pink one. I am ambivalent or want a third option that is between the two, that's the 12. I don't know what I do with the ambivalent one, but if I just look at the two, then I would say that the against are the winners. Yeah. So as we conclude, just to say your prize is you get to be served first as the against group. But yeah, if you want to tip the balance in favor of the blues, do it now. Okay, so just to say thank you to Karen, she mentioned the traditional methods measurement project that we are doing in Africa. I wanted to highlight that it's not just about Asia where we're seeing these trends, we're seeing these trends also in Africa. So watch this space. We'll talk about our study. We are out in the field right now, but we had some preliminary data from our pilot showing some degree of concurrency, which is what Jacques was saying. The options were too limited. There's also women who are using both modern and traditional methods. I just wanted to say thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think, Jamil, you're going to finish this. Oh, okay.
Okay, no, I just wanted to say I didn't vote, but as a part of the FPMLE consortium, we've been talking about this almost for a year. So firstly, I want to thank Team Blue for holding up so strongly for modern methods. And I want to thank Team Pink for really helping us nuance and think about traditional method use deeply. So, but what I want to say is we actually have been swaying between these for a very long time. For me, what really struck me was a graph that the UPTSU's research showed around traditional method use, that about 40% of women who were traditional method users were persistently traditional method users and would like to continue to use traditional method use. And that really, when I saw that graph, till that analysis, I kept thinking it's a revolving door. But when I saw that graph that your colleagues did, it really struck me that there's something here that we need to understand. But on the other hand, we are actually testing measures around reproductive agency, reproductive control, and I think what we need to do more is really nest some of those measures for traditional method users to really see what does agency mean and what does decision making mean for these two diverse groups, and can we safely assume that this is power and agency, or is it yet another form of patriarchy and power and control, which is the point you were making. As I hear this, I feel I'm very ambivalent because we still don't know enough about patriarchy and power within the context of traditional method use. Although I do believe that there's a strong group of people who prefer and want to, and it's the fear of side effects that really make them resolute about traditional method use. So I wanted to make my pitch on behalf of the consortium.
Please hear from the chair.
Thank you, Priya, and what a wonderful debate. And I'm just taking this opportunity, being on the chair, to say that the informed choice is so central to family planning and to sexual and reproductive health and rights. And both the arguments coming from for and against actually centered around informed choice about consent, about her agency, and about bodily autonomy. And so it's so important. Of course, at some point, I was thinking that do young people have enough contraceptive choice for safe and pleasurable sex? And I think we need to have more research in this area to see that how traditional methods can further taken forward and have a program and really address some of the program inefficiencies and looking at program implications in terms of taking this forward. So thank you so much to all the 4 speakers and to the moderator. Please join us for dinner.
Please join us for some Indian snacks and some drinks. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Congratulations. Do you know why you failed? You failed.
No, they convinced me.
11 against us. Do you know the difference? Why? Because your team is gender bias. Congratulations. See, this one handshake with them so that you see now how a team will be women, no men. That's why you cannot
I took a photo.